Before we bring in our guest, let's ground this conversation in the lived reality of the region and the new economic direction that are emerging, even though not fast enough. Today's discussion isn't theory. It's about livelihoods, about food security, about whether the Niger Delta can build prosperity that does not evaporate every time global oil prices fall. With a crunch in the economy, what is the best foot forward for the country and most specifically the region? Let's now connect with our guest on the discourse, CEO, BEL Media Consulting, Emmanuel Enebeli. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Thank
hear
you
you.
for
Good
joining
afternoon
us,
to you.
Emmanuel.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, this conversation around economic diversification, a lot of people believe that it is going to be very, very beneficial to not just the Niger Delta region, but across the country if more attention were to be paid to other areas of the economy apart from oil. What's your stance on this?
Again, thank you for having me. The truth is that the country or the Niger Delta cannot continue to depend solely on oil revenues. Oil has become less reliable, both in global markets and a source of local development. What we need now is a deliberate transition towards agriculture and fisheries or any other agricultural means. We all know, before the oil was discovered in large quantities or commercial quantity, the entire Nigeria is known for its development based on agricultural produce. And the country, the Niger Delta and Nigeria, has a strength in agricultural produce. In different parts of the region, there are different economic advantage of each region, focusing on what they want to do. The Nigeria, for instance, can become the food hub of Nigeria, as the NDDC has rightly projected in its recent policy statement. So, this position, as a thoughtful and policy conscious voice, is can be it's based on the fact that while diversification is all very urgent, global energy is also shifting or reducing its profitability. While local pollution has crippled farmers and fishery grounds, food inflation and unemployment are also rising. So these are the key points that we need to look at for us to now say, okay, let us now move away from, start gradually in a gradual process to move away from the food dependent on oil revenue for economic development, social development, and security development to other aspects of resources, which the agriculture is a very basic one. Our survival beyond oil depends on how well we cultivate the land and manage our waters. That is one key factor we must have to take away if Nigeria have to continue to look away from the oil. All of us, we all know the situation of the country today.
All right, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yeah.
You mentioned agriculture, and in agriculture is actually a broad area. Which area do you think we should explore more from when it comes to agriculture, especially people from the Niger Delta region?
Well, the area I'm focusing more is one, the Niger Delta region, as we all know, is an area that's blessed with water wells, water resources, water, both resource and fresh water. And it is, we can harness the water for our aquaculture. And also, the land within the Niger Delta area is also very, very fertile for agricultural produce. Like as I said earlier, before the commercial discovery of oil in Nigeria, which the Niger Delta area, it had been the main source of these resources and energy to the country in terms of finance and employment. Agriculture, fishery have been a main source of income for the people of this area, which they equally take it out. These areas were the main suppliers of the fish in this country and beyond Nigeria. This area was also very good in producing other arable agricultural produce, yam, cassava, tree crops, and others, which the focus on oil have deliberately, through human efforts and inhuman efforts, destroyed the land and will now refocus our needs on the oil, including security, including employment. So everything we depend today is on oil. The government of the Niger Delta area and the country entirely is depending on oil as their main source of revenue. So for us to get out of this, we have to look at agriculture. And when I talk about agriculture, the entire layer of agriculture, including fishery, because the water is very, very good for that, and we need to start cleaning up the water for us to achieve this. Though it may take us a long time, it may not be an immediate effect, but gradually we have to start shifting our focus on oil to these areas.
All right, Mr. Enebeli.
The necessary policy and its implementation are made or provided by the government.
All right, Mr. Enebeli. I was going to quickly ask, what are those areas that must be looked into in terms of encouraging persons who are interested in going into these areas that you have pointed out? For instance, the fisheries that you have mentioned. There are farmers who would like some enablements, who would want to go into this business brand, but then they are being limited by resources and some constraints that they consider very, very important if it were to be addressed for them to be able to venture effectively into the line. What do you think are those specific steps or scopes that can be developed towards ensuring that it is more, they can function better in these areas?
Okay, thank you very much. The key enablers needed for the success of this new direction is one, infrastructure, roads, power, irrigation, cold storage for ports for export will have to be developed. Which you will agree with me that our government have not been doing that. They need to start thinking of developing those areas. The roads network, the power network, irrigation, cold storage, ports for exports. Then the finance, there should be accessible microcredit grants and insurance for farmers. Then three, we should be talking about training, agricultural extension service, and youth agri-tech training. Now, if you call the average farmers in Nigeria today, you discover those days when they used to talk of agri-extension workers, it is no longer existing. But in the budget, they will target that for agri-extension. But nothing like that. I can reliably tell you that we are not doing anything about agriculture. Then the policy, there should be tax incentives, land reforms, and strict protection of riverine ecosystems. Our river areas is being, on a daily basis, being excavated in terms of dredging. Dredging is destroying the riverine. So there should be a deliberate action to protect this. Then there should be a market linkage for those to connect farmers to buyers and processors. Once there's a policy aligned with these areas and implemented, I think those that are interested will definitely want to implement, because when you build good roads and power rural farms, you don't just grow crops, you grow the economy. In other words, people will not even want to move from the rural areas to the city. Because once there's a good roads and there's power to run the farms, you are not only growing the crops, but you're also encouraging growing the economy of that area.
All right, Mr. Enebeli. Before now, I understand that the country or the region was really making a lot of money when it comes to the producing palm fruits and its byproducts. So where did we really actually get it wrong? And how can we go back into getting more money, from the palm products?
Yeah, before now, like I said earlier, the area was, most of the communities in Niger Delta and Nigeria were depending more on agricultural produce. We know the story of the Kano Granite Pyramid. We are aware of the cocoa of the West. We are also aware of that of eastern part of Nigeria. Then I can tell you, because my mother was a trader, she before now was buying gari, that processed gari, loaded in 911, those days 911, and take out of our community in Delta State. People come there to buy and take. So economy there was good. People were depending on these things. But as time goes on, is it the oil or is politics? A lack of policy direction was actually what caused us to forget everything that people were doing before now, because most people were now focusing on the oil. Then when this political era came again, nobody's even talking of development. But let us enter politics. That's where the money is. That's where the money is. Everybody's mind was diverted towards political goal, personal political goal, not communal political agenda. Everything was mixed up. But we can still correct that problem. We can still correct it by now deliberate action of the government and the people to see how we can go back to the land, and by implementing certain things, because official practice of those days is no longer what it is today, like what I've eliminated before now, that we need to bring in some vital policy statements and implementation to achieve them.
All right, Mr. Enebeli, as we begin to wind down this session now, I'd like you to speak to the issue of empowerment in terms of financing now. What opportunities would you say exist for youth agripreneurs who would want to go into this venture, especially fisheries that you spoke of? There's the need to preserve products, but then most of these young persons who might want to go into this would complain about the issue of electricity and all of that, which is, of course, very much important when you talk about going into this venture. To prevent the issue of losses effectively, what roles do you think the government can play in all of this? And then the issue of policies that can effectively create that enabling environment for this business to thrive, how would that be looked into?
Like I said earlier, that the key enablers needed for this success is the infrastructure, which means the roads, the power, irrigation, cold storage, ports, and for exports. There should be access to finance, which the government is the key to this one. Infrastructure, finance, training, policy, market linkage. The government holds the ace to this. So the government, I'm talking to the government as I'm saying now, speaking now, that they should be the one enabling factors, agents to ensure that provision of infrastructure such as roads, finance, should talk to the finance organizations for the youth and any other person that want to go into this farming process to access microcredit, grants, and insurance cover for the farmers.
So if all of these suggestions that you've put to the fore were to be adopted, where do you see the Niger Delta region, say in the next 10 years, if we were to start investing in this diversified goal from today?
My dear brother, if these facilities, these enabling factors are provided by the government, with the energy I see in use in Niger Delta and even the other ones in Niger Delta, I think the Niger Delta will be something else, somewhere to be as a place to visit, because most of the idle minds that have been diverted to politics of thuggery or dependence on oil alone, their mind will be changed. There's money in. How do you know that there's money in farming? There's serious money in farming. They will focus their mind. Many minds will be engineered towards that because they know another source of income for them. And the use of Niger Delta are very, very strong and focused. Forget what is here about Nigerian youth. Nigerian use of Niger Delta, once they mean to do something positive, once the enabling environment is provided for them, they will go for it. I think in the next 10 years, if this is done, these 5 key enablers are provided, I think Niger Delta will be somewhere else, because we'll not be talking of the only oil, Most people will not even be talking of going to work in oil companies because there may be processing plants who will be processing some of these aggregates or processing and people will be employing people. So it should be a very beautiful place and less security challenges, I believe so.
Thank you very much, CEO BEL Media Consulting, Emmanuel Enebeli, for speaking to us on Niger Delta Today.
Thank you very much for
having me. Thank you for your time, Mr. Emmanuel.
You're welcome.
All right, that's it of the conversation, but then we'll turn our sights on another issue, taking us to Okwama community and efforts of the government towards resettlement of citizens and persons of the community who were displaced last year. Let's stay tuned.